Hello and a warm virtual welcome to you all. I'm Sangeeta Bhabra, co-presenter of ITV News Meridian, and we are live online for a Royal Television Society event here in the South as we chat to the actors Sarah, Parish and James Murray as we find out about their journey in this tough industry and their secret to success. Over the next 45 minutes, I'll be asking them about their careers, looking at their work in front of the camera and behind it, their prolific charity work and what advice they have for students who want to work in the film and television industry. We've also allocated some time for your questions and we would love to hear from you too. So if you have anything you want to ask Sarah or Jim, then please click the Q&A button on your screen and please use that rather than the chat, and we will be monitoring your questions. Over then to Sarah and Jim. Good afternoon to you both. And Sarah, you have literally got back to Hampshire after starting your day in Manchester.
Yeah, I got up, caught the 7:27 from Manchester, and got back about half an hour ago. I
think James was a bit panicked whether you'd get here on time, but you did, and we're grateful to you both for doing this today. What a year it's been for all of us and for you too. You have worked throughout the pandemic, and it's not been easy, I imagine.
No, it's been tough. I think when we first hit lockdown, I got pulled off a job, and Jim and I were sort of sitting around. And the first few weeks were quite fun, weren't they? Quite nice. And then it started to dawn on us that we might never work again, and it was a bit of a challenge, wasn't it?
Which lockdown are we talking about?
Yeah, which one?
I think this is number 3 now, isn't it? But James and Sarah, you've both been working under these weird conditions, social distancing, bubbles. Is that right?
Well, what happens is, I think every job is different, but the ones that I've worked on certainly is, yes, you do get put into bubbles with other cast members that you spend most time with on screen. But there is, I don't know whether you noticed that any drama that's been made since the pandemic and during lockdown, there is a sort of an odd social distancing going on with the characters, which we all now take for granted, of course. So that's one of many ways to get around things in order to get filming done.
And as a husband and wife in real life, of course, you've probably been together more than ever before. Has anybody been getting under anyone's feet?
No.
I don't know what you mean. I don't know what you're talking about.
Do you know what?
Okay.
But we've actually got on quite well. I mean, the first lockdown was really quite harmonious and lovely. The winter lockdown, maybe not as much, but you can't go outside.
We're still together. What more can you ask?
We like seeing you both together. So come on, let's get to business now. Let's start with some clips now. Sarah, let's look at some of your work first.
What she's become is what we made her by not being there.
We, right.
Yeah, I take full responsibility for my part in her getting adopted. Later, when she was 8.
When you also weren't around.
Which I also regret, and all I'm saying is...
You would have got in touch?
I don't know. Probably not. Probably I'd have done what you did.
And it's actually all my fault because I didn't.
I have no right to say that, but from her point...
I didn't want to see her. I didn't want to see her. How could I look at her and not see you? How could I be with her and not miss you? You know, if you hadn't have come back, I'd never have gone looking for her. It was both of you I wanted on either.
Right. Okay. Okay, great.
All right, okay.
And we are status active here, guys. I say again.
No, Dave, I'm sorry, would you mind?
Yeah,
it's just I can't think.
Yeah,
No, please, shut up.
The BBC Royal Greeting Party may have finally broken free, but they now have just 7 minutes left until they're due to be greeting, and no time to worry about detail.
Right, okay, let's go.
Hang on, guys. Not being funny or anything, but what about Tony?
Oh, right.
Yes.
Tony who?
Tony Hall.
Oh, yeah.
And Simon?
Yes.
I mean, are we just leaving them in there or waiting or what?
Right.
The fact is, Prince Charles is here to be met and somebody's got to meet him.
I mean, why don't we keep going for the moment and see what happens with that?
Yes,
one?
exactly.
Right, okay.
Yes.
Okay, right. Ed, can I have a couple of minutes? These people need a word.
Can you not see she's on shift?
For God's sake, Ed.
D.I. Hardy, DSMLR, Wessex Police. Who are you?
Ed Burnett, this is my shop. What's it concerning?
Ed.
It sounds her.
Can you make it quick?
No. Can we talk in private?
What did I do? No, will you tell me, please, why I had to have a mother who is so cruel, who can only ever disagree or find fault who can't help but ruin everything.
Catherine,
No, just stop calling me that. I am not Catherine. I never was.
You shouldn't have been up there. You should be in prison.
you know the IOPC exonerated me for the death of Kamara. Now, why don't you just let it drop?
Atif Kamara, this is about Catherine.
You clearly weren't listening to the chief, were you? This merger is about productivity. Now, HR have drawn up a list, and I am fighting for you, but...
You can't make me retire.
Well, you're not the policeman you used to be, Cliff. It's time to accept that. Go back to your family.
Does Catherine come back at you in your nightmares?
Ooh, that stare, Sarah. What was that like, just watching all of that? And for me, it was just all those actors. Joanna Lumley, Amanda Holden, David Tennant, Lenny Henry, Hugh Bonneville. You've worked with them all.
I know. Do you know what? That was really lovely. We were watching it, weren't we? Going, oh my God, the cutting it one. My voice is so much higher then because I was so much younger, and it was really lovely to watch that. Actually, it really brought back a lot of memories. It was great.
Are you happy watching yourself back?
Not usually, but that was because it was such a surprise. I did quite enjoy it actually. Yeah, I mean, it was nice. It was like I must get hold of it and use it for my show reel.
We're going to send it to you. OK, now you told an interview at the Independent newspaper that I have a look about me that says death. I'm not a fluffy bunny. So when playing Detective Chief Superintendent Bancroft, that really hit the spot, yeah?
Yeah, it did. I mean, it's funny, we're all typecast as actors by the way we look, you know, and I just happen to have quite an angular look about me that doesn't sort of, sharp, doesn't scream fluffy bunny particularly. So I do tend to get cast as either people of quite high status or people who like to kill other people. So it's an interesting casting bracket, and I enjoy it. I really enjoy playing baddies. They're great. They always have the best lines. So yeah.
And James, you both worked together on Cutting It, and that was a massive hit. Would you like to work together again?
Well, we just have for ITV, as luck would have it, and it was great. We hadn't, as you mentioned, we hadn't worked together since Cutting It, so that was 16 years ago, I think. And we did. Sarah came and did a film of McDonald and Dodds for ITV just before Christmas, which I think will be on in the next couple of months. And it was it was really lovely. We had a few scenes together.
We were a bit nervous.
We were a bit nervous. I won't want to do it every day because I think you want to keep your work life and your home life separate. But no, it was really lovely to work with Sarah again. Absolutely.
Oh no, that must be really strange. So why were you nervous with each other? Because you would think it would be the most natural thing in the world.
I don't know. Why were we nervous? It just felt a bit... It was just because we hadn't been in our professional setting together for a long time. And you have a different persona when you're on set than when you're at home. Do you know what I mean? When you're on set, you're showing the advert of yourself. You're the best bit of yourself, basically. And when you're at home, maybe not so much. So it's weird to mix the two, But it was fine, wasn't it?
Acting's a very personal thing, and everyone has a very different way, a different approach on how they, play a role. So I think because we hadn't seen that side of each other for so long, and it's very personal, you feel a little bit vulnerable when you show your nearest and dearest that in a professional setting. So I think, but we got that. I think we did okay.
I hope we did okay. We'll have to watch it.
Yeah.
Looking forward to seeing that. So can we just go back to the beginning of your careers? Where did you both study drama?
Well, I went to the Academy of Live and Recorded Arts. I went there when I was 18 or 19 when I went. I really enjoyed drama school. It was a good school, actually. It was a very different sort of school. Back in the day, when I was young, it was, you either went to RADA or you went to Central or you went to Lambda. And Alra was quite a little known drama school, but I really liked it because it had a television course, which I was really interested in. And it was just a little bit more progressive than the other drama schools. And it just fitted the way I worked. So, it was that's where I trained and I loved it. I really enjoyed it.
And James, what about you?
I was at Manchester Metropolitan University studying script writing and filmmaking. So I was on the other side of the camera as part of my studies, and we were given actors from the local drama course to use in our work, and I just was terrible at directing them because I just showed them what I wanted, which is like page 1, rule 1 of the handbook of directing: do not show and tell.
Do it like this.
And I seemed to find myself, moving in front of the camera constantly rather than being behind. So that's when I sort of transgressed and became the doer as opposed to the teller. So yeah, that was me, Manchester.
We'll talk about your directing a little later, James, but both of you have got some huge shows under your belt: Broadchurch, Bancroft, Cucumber, McDonald and Dodds that you've mentioned. Briefly, what have you enjoyed playing the most?
Oh gosh. It's funny actually that, because there are usually the characters that I enjoy playing the most are the ones that are written, by the great writers. So I loved being Beatrice in Much Ado About Nothing, the TV version of that. It was written by David Nichols, so saying his lines are great. I loved Anna from W1A, written by John Morton, who's a great writer. And I love working with Peter Bowker, who's another great writer. He did a thing called Blackpool that I was in, and a thing called Monroe. Blackpool was especially great because it was singing and dancing. It was a musical for TV, which you very rarely get, and it was just a joy to do. So, yes, those characters I liked.
I think the same. TV-wise, if you're lucky enough to work with Russell T Davies, like I was on Cucumber, that was a joy for the same reason as Sarah said. The writing is, when the writing sings and you connect with it, everything else is just so easy. So, and I love playing that role because he was a very complicated, challenging young man. The comedies that I've been sporadically been offered, I always loved those. One springs to mind is a thing called Crod Mandoon and the Flaming Sword of Fire, which didn't get the love and respect it deserved. That was a BBC Two Comedy Central thing years ago with Matt Lucas and Kevin Hart and some great actors, and I really loved that. In America, working over there is always fun because they have a writing room as opposed to a single writer a lot of the time, which means that the characters get a lot more attention perhaps than the story, or just as much. So that, and obviously doing the classics like Oscar Wilde on stage when I was younger, it's all about the writers for me, and I think the same for you. Yeah.
Jim, you have got a real range, and let us look at some of your work now.
Oh gosh.
Well, I better start looking for a place to live since I appear to be staying.
Let me introduce the new head stylist, Lisa Devereaux, Liam Carney. Hi there.
We've met.
Yeah?
Yeah, we like the same book.
I'm the official backer and business partner, sleeping partner. So I guess we'll be seeing quite a bit of each other.
It was you. You called me back for the second interview.
Can't just let you disappear.
Well, right now I'm wondering what it is I've walked into.
There's no way you can stick with him.
I stuck with you, didn't I?
Far longer than I deserved. Belle, I never said sorry. Throwing away the most perfect.
It was never perfect.
For me, you were. I was just too dumb to see it.
And now, second family. More kids?
No way. Done that, earned my right to a peaceful old age.
Oh, I don't know. Imagine doing it all again, knowing what you know, having learned from your mistakes. Couldn't you make a better job of it this time round?
I could.
Mustn't keep you. Was just saying hello.
We should go for a drink.
Yeah.
With your boyfriend, too, not just you and me. That might freak him out. Though, don't get me wrong, I mean to a normal bar. Yeah, not your sort of place. I don't want you leading me to the dark side. Well, not on the first night. Yeah, so I'm still kind of exploring the city, really. I wouldn't know where it's good for a drink or...
We can show you.
Yeah, OK. But not Canal Street, OK? We've all heard about Canal Street.
Well, it's not what it was, but... Why? What's wrong with it?
To be fair, they'd all buzz around me. Like insects.
A premeditated act of violence directed at a group of law-abiding citizens, resulting in 1 fatality but could have been 5. I want you to assure the survivors of our ongoing protection.
Yes, sir.
I actually remember those people from the 80s. I was new romantic, you know.
What, like Boy George?
I'm choosing to ignore that, Lauren. Those 4 were celebrities back then.
Really?
Yes, and they've obviously weathered the years well, financially at least, which means they're well connected in Bath, so tread gingerly around them.
Oh, well.
But what?
We still haven't explained the scratches on the victim's hand.
Okay. But concentrate on the logistics of the sabotage. How it was done, who had the expertise and the opportunity. That's your priority.
Yes, sir. Got my A team on it.
James, I don't know who enjoyed that more, you or Sarah.
I loved it.
It's very uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable, but yeah, you enjoyed it.
I loved it, yeah.
It was lovely to see the comedy there as well. And you've actually been in a soap as well, Coronation Street in 1998.
Yeah, that was my very first acting gig. I think I did like 4 episodes of Coronation Street. I trod the cobbles, and it was my introduction into the world of acting. And after that experience, I remember saying, "That's it. I'm not doing this again," because it was so frightening for a new actor to be thrust into the machine of a soap opera like Coronation Street, where everything is so quick. And you get like 2 takes, and you know, it's a sausage factory in that respect. You've got to be good, and you've got to hit your mark, and you've got to know your lines, and you've got to be convincing. And I probably ticked about 2 out of those 4 boxes, and I just thought, this is too frightening. This is just, if this is what it is, I'm not in. But luckily, you know, you get to do more long form dramas which have more time to breathe, and I think that suited me a little bit more.
It's interesting that you said that, because Sarah, in the past you have said that you've been plagued with self-doubt too. So how did you get through it?
So that's a good question. I don't know. Yeah, it's imposter syndrome, I suppose. A lot of actors have that. You know, you'll turn up on set and kind of go, "Oh, I don't feel that I deserve to be here." You know, I feel any minute now somebody's going to go, "You're fired." You know, what are you doing on set? It's. I think you just sort of. You just get used to it. You just get used to that feeling of always feeling a little bit nervous. And I suppose at the end of the day, you need to talk to yourself and say, look, I'm sat in a room right now with a bunch of actors thinking they're all better than me. But every single one of those actors is thinking the same thing. We're all as insecure as each other. We all are filled with self-doubt. It's what we live with as actors. So I think once you know that everybody else feels the same way, it's not just you, the business becomes a lot easier, you know. And it's true. I remember going into auditions when I was younger, and you know, if there was somebody there from RADA, I would immediately go, "Oh, Christ, you know, I shouldn't be here." Or if there was somebody there who had a more privileged, better, you know, upbringing, I go, "God, I shouldn't be here." And you're constantly doubting yourself and putting yourself up against people. But you can't do that. You can't compare yourself to anybody. You can only compare yourself to yourself and you know, fight against yourself in that way. So I think it's just the thing with age. You just learn to accept who you are, be happy with who you are, and just, yeah, try and not show how nervous you are, because we're all nervous all the time.
Has the industry got easier the longer that you've been in it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yes. I mean, the industry is a funny thing. I always think of it, it's sort of like being invited to a great party. It's horrible when you're not invited, you know, and you wait and you wait and you wait and you wait for the invite, and suddenly you're in. You know, you get the invite and you're in, and yeah, life becomes much easier, and you start to make contacts, and those contacts make more contacts, and that's how you progress in the industry. When you first start out, it is incredibly tough, and you've got to have nerves of steel, and you've got to have very, very thick skin, you know, because there's a lot of rejection, and that gets easier as you get older, because you get used to it. And but it will always be tough. It's never going to be an easy job, is it? Really? I don't think.
No. The older you get, it is, yeah, you deal with rejection better because you have so much experience of it. But the older you get, the further away you become from going, what else can I do? I can't suddenly retrain and do something else, so I'm going to have to stick with this. And the inevitable responsibilities of having children and mortgages and all those things that you don't really think about when you're younger as a young actor plague on you a little bit. But I think, as Sarah said, it's about commitment. And you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound, and you just got to embrace it and run with it and hold on and hope for the best. Really.
Yeah, we all deserve to be here. That's the thing with actors. We never think we deserve to be there. I think because it feels sometimes like we're quite low on the pecking order. We're waiting for the phone to ring. We're waiting to be given a job. And in that respect, it's quite hard to sort of make your life... do you know what I mean? What I'm trying to say is that sort of like...
It's one of the few jobs you can't... Sorry, go on.
Go on.
No, I was just going to say, it's when you enjoy it, it sometimes doesn't even feel like work, I suppose, because you feel so privileged just to be doing what you love.
Yeah, it's a great job, you know.
But that's what people who aren't actors, I think that the sort of the glamorous element plus the working element, being on set and actually doing what you love doing, probably represents about 5%.
It's not glamorous,
of what the job entails. The lion's share is waiting around either for the phone to ring and managing your anxiety, your mental health, your expectations. I think that's the tough part of being an actor, the really tough part, and why you really do have to commit. Like I said, then there's an element of preparing once you get the role, which is great, and then actually doing it. But the majority of it is sitting around waiting and preparing.
It is.
Very little of it is actually the doing of it.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting lots of questions coming through for you, and just to confirm to the audience, do ask questions via the Q&A button, and the questions will be coming up shortly. Now, this will make you smile, and I really want to see your reaction with this one, Sarah. Your first big thing was a television ad for Boddington's beer in 1994.
Yeah.
Oh, won't you stay?
There's a cream that helps you stay in the sun just a little bit longer.
Heck. You could stay here as long as you like, Chuck.
Hey, Vera. You fancy a top-up, love? Eh?
Ooh, not half. And give us another rub down with that chip fat.
Boddington's, the cream of Manchester.
Now, I remember that, and I remember thinking, she's got a good bod, but I had no idea until last week that it was you. Does it seem like ages ago?
Oh my God, yeah, looking at my figure it does, yeah. That was really good fun actually doing that. It was because they took us to Miami to shoot the first bit.
Wow.
Which was amazing. And I'd never done anything like that before. You know, I was really straight out of drama school. So it was very classy for me. And we were all flown there first class. And then on the beach in Miami, when I had to take that sip of beer, we did about 60 takes of that. And it had to be real Boddingtons because the Boddingtons, people were there. So by the end of the day, I was absolutely hammered. And I was covered in baby oil as well. So I was burnt to a crisp, very drunk. And miles away from home, and then they flew us back home, and then we did the end bit of Blackpool. So when you pan away, but it was a great experience. I loved doing it, and watching it makes me laugh, and also makes me very depressed when I look at how thin I was.
And did it lead to instant things?
It did actually. Yeah, it did. Funnily enough, those adverts were so successful. I got a lot of phone calls after that. My agent did, sort of saying, we'd really like to bring that northern girl in, the girl from the Boddingtons ad. So my agent at the time didn't bother to tell them that I was from Yeovil, and just said, go in, darling, and just pretend you're from the north. And from that, I got peak practice, which was my first sort of long-running TV gig. So yeah, it did. It opened a lot of doors, which is a really good thing, because I think there was a time in acting, and not so much now, where there was a real snobbery about what you could and couldn't do. You know, you can't do adverts. If you're a TV actor, you can't do film. If you're a film actor, this, that, and the other. And I'm really glad that that's sort of being chipped away at now, and actors can do anything, because we should be able to do anything. We should be able to turn our hand at anything, and so things like that they can really propel you.
James, I bet you feel like a very lucky man, don't you?
Well, I'm from Manchester, and I used to drink Boddingtons. And I do, and do you know what I did?
You've done an advert, haven't you, for Boddingtons?
I did an editorial advert for Boddingtons, not a TV advert. It was a magazine advert, sort of before Sarah, actually, before yours.
Oh.
And I remember Sarah's advert, and I remember thinking, she looks like she enjoys the cream of Manchester, as it says.
You're not going to lead me astray. Now, there's many students watching this with aspirations to be filmmakers, directors, producers, camera operators, despite the pandemic. In fact, possibly because of it, we are all watching more television. So what makes a good crew? And I'm going to start with you, James, because you've already told us about your background with kind of filmmaking and directing.
Sorry, what was the question again?
Oh, I can't repeat it. No. What makes for a good television crew? You know, if you're on the other side of the camera.
Oh, I see. What makes for a good TV crew? Great question. I think people that want to be there, as opposed to people that are there because it's a job. Because I think the whole business, not just acting, the whole business, it has to be a vocational business, because we're all very lucky if we're given opportunities to work in whatever craft we've trained in. And we're all artists, I think, to a lesser or greater extent. So I think number one rule is wanting to be there on set, wanting to work, loving the project, because it's tough. You know, the hours are tough. Sometimes the pay's not great, especially for the crew. Sometimes the conditions are a bit rubbish. So it's the desire to be there, absolutely.
What about the first, second and third? I think they're really important.
Oh, who? Well, that's who's really important. Everyone's really important.
Yeah, but to make a really good crew, you know, to make a crew work really well, the first director, the second director, and the third director are really important. They hold the whole thing together, really. If they're in communication with each other and they're really good at what they do, I think the crew works well.
So communication, listening to each other and listening to the director and trusting their vision, I think, because it's a real team thing, right? And it's a collaboration. So if you're not someone who enjoys collaborating, you probably shouldn't, go for that job.
Don't be in a crew, yeah.
How important is that relationship, and how does it reflect in your performance, would you say?
Massively, I think.
The crew relationship. That certainly, how the crew get on and how the crew bond has a huge and direct bearing on how the performances are given and how good the performances are. Because if you're working on a set with a crew that you get that feel that they're not into it, then it's very hard for you to feel safe, I think.
Because you're vulnerable, aren't you, out there? And you want them to be behind you. And if a crew don't gel, it can ruin a show. It really can. Because you're there as an entirety, the crew and the cast. And sometimes there's a feeling, if the first is not good or is too shouty or too angry, and then the crew don't like him or her, if the DOP and the cameraman don't get on, that can be a nightmare. Everyone has to gel.
Yeah.
And it's the first director, second director, and third director's job to make that whole ship run as smoothly as possible. I always think if they're good, they can get the team working, and because it is long hours and people do get tired, and the crew are the first people in, the last people to go. It's an exhausting job, but when it works, it's incredible.
Yeah.
What's the best advice that you've both ever received about working in the industry?
Have a second career.
Have a second career.
Get a trade.
That's not bad, actually. I mean, no. Oh gosh, the best advice: keep going. I mean, that's tough, because there's so much advice. I mean, don't take it personally, really, because you will get there's a lot of rejection, and you cannot afford to take it personally. It will, knock at the door of your mental health constantly. So you've got to have a very thick skin.
I think as well, from an acting point of view, trust yourself. Take risks. You may think you're taking risks, but when you get under those lights, especially as a young actor, fear takes over a little bit, and you tend to play safe a lot. And I think for me, certainly, it was take more risks. It's okay to take risks, especially in front of a camera. We can, they're not. We can do it again.
Yeah.
And only then does the work happen, when you're taking risks, because that's the way you grow as any sort of artist. So yeah, take risks. Don't be afraid to take risks.
And discipline as well. Really work on your self-discipline. As an actor, you make your own rules, especially when you're out of work. There's nobody there to tell you what to do. You don't get up in the morning and go to work. You're like, you are your own business. So you have to have a very, very strong sense of self-discipline.
Yeah.
We're going to take one question now. Have you had any roles you missed out on, or you passed that you now kick yourself about? And any advice for dealing with rejection that we've just heard about?
Yes, I did. I was asked to do. I'll never forgive myself. Well, no, actually, there was a good reason why. But there was a thing about, was it Beatrix Potter? And Helena Bonham. I turned it down, and Helena Bonham Carter ended up doing, and she got a BAFTA.
I don't know. Maybe I'm lucky enough to or unlucky enough, I guess. I don't know. No, there's nothing that I don't think.
What have you missed out on that Game of Thrones, you nearly got close.
Oh, Game of Thrones. Yeah, no, yeah. That's so tragic that my memories erased
it. Yeah.
Game of Thrones.
You got very close to.
There's been a number of very close to
Star Trek.
Star Trek.
Yeah. I mean, Jim gets right down to the last, and then that happens a lot. That's the worst.
Yeah,
you can't dwell on that stuff, though, can you?
No, you do. I mean, it's really painful for. I think just to answer your other question around it, how do you deal with it? If you get really close to a life-changing role, which has happened to both of us a few times, and to have gotten really close, you would have had to have worked on it probably for a number of weeks, done a number of auditions, zoomed into producers, directors in Los Angeles or whatever. And, it takes over your life, and you can't sleep. And because if you do get it, your life changes anyway. You've got to be on a plane somewhere or whatever. And then suddenly suddenly you're cold again after being red hot for 4 weeks. And it's really, really tough. But it's an acute pain, and it's like ripping off a Band-Aid. It's really painful for a really short period of time. And then you just take a deep breath and you go next.
And, you're both very established here in this country, and you have worked in Los Angeles, like you said, Hollywood. Is that very different, kind of being part of that massive industry? Film?
Yeah.
It is. There's so much more money in film. Yeah. So you've got more time,
you get more time, and you get paid better, and, you might be in a more glamorous location. But it is a very different feel, but I wouldn't say better. It's just different. I mean, in England, there's perhaps more authenticity at grassroots level, whereas because it's so much more commercial and so much bigger industry over in, say, the States, there's a lot more facade and superficial behaviour.
Yeah.
Because there's more at stake, I guess.
It's a different feeling over in LA, isn't it?
Yeah. Everybody's shitting themselves a bit.
I'm not allowed to say that.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
But it is. It's much more nerve-wracking over there and there's a lot of shouting. They like to do a lot of shouting on set and stuff, which is it's difficult for our little English
sensibilities. Yes, we take it very offensively. It's because there's more at stake, I think, and because it's so much a bigger industry. There are 500 actors waiting literally outside the studio doors for your role should you mess up or get sick or upset the wrong person. Whereas in England, it's a little bit more forgiving and perhaps there's not so much riding on it. So it's higher stakes, and therefore all the things that come with higher stakes is that, people are more stressed out.
Tempers. Yeah.
It's interesting. It's I wouldn't want to do it full time. But
it's fun to go over there, though, and dip your toe in.
To have experienced the Hollywood machine I think it's a must for every actor if they can get the opportunity. Yeah, sure.
And just a brief answer to this one: would you say naturally you're better at being goodies or baddies?
Baddies.
Baddies.
But what's a goodie and what's a baddie? I mean, we could talk about that all day.
It's all very grey. It's all very grey.
It's all
Well,
very
look, this
grey.
is something really good to talk about. Let's talk about your charity work, because your baby daughter, sadly, Ella Jane, died aged just 8 months old in 2009 from a congenital heart defect, and it was a dreadful time for you both. But in 2014, you set up the Murray Parish Trust, raising millions for children's services at Southampton Hospital's NHS Trust, where they looked after Ella Jane. And let's just see how your daughter's legacy is now helping other children.
Ella Jane was a very, very poorly little girl. She probably was never going to live very long. And the quality of her life, if she had done, would have been very poor. The great thing about the NHS is that they give you hope. You know, they never once sort of made us feel like, you know, look, this is a lost cause. They just were behind us 100%.
Well, they just keep going.
They just kept going. They just kept making her better.
The
And
compassion is, you know...
It was phenomenal. And, you know, they managed to make her well enough to come home for the last 3 months of her life so we could be a family for 3 months. And that meant the world to us. Gave us all the memories we have of Ella Jane. She managed to come back for Christmas and New Year. She met all of our families. She had a great 3 months at home with us, and we got to experience our first child. And that was a gift that I don't know how we could ever repay them for that.
Why did you decide to fundraise for this state-of-the-art trauma centre? Was it in memory of your daughter, or because you felt that things could be done better?
Both. It was to make the NHS better. I mean, the NHS rely on funding such as ours, on charitable funding. They couldn't survive without money coming from external sources. That was a real eye-opener for us.
And that was you both talking to me in 2018 on the 70th anniversary of the NHS. And you have raised millions, and the government doubled that amount. An extraordinary achievement. You must be very proud.
We are, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, we are, but you can't. It's funny. To hear it from people like yourselves. It's a great reminder of the work we've done, because we don't really dwell on it, and without trying to give a false sense of modesty, you don't really dwell on it because there's so much more to do, and it's the mountain. It never gets any smaller. So you've always got to keep looking forward. And yes, it helps to have a sort of a history like ours to have made that kind of money, because it helps leverage more, and it gets people more interested and take us more seriously. But yeah, we're proud, and but it's, you know, the legacy and the pride belongs to Ella Jane. It's nothing that we've done nobody else could have done. You know, what am I trying to say here? We're not unique in that respect. Anyone can do this. Anyone who's been in our position can take that tragedy and make some good of it. So we're not special in that respect. It's all down to her legacy, I think.
But what would astound a lot of people, and many people won't know this, is that you spent 2 months in an orphanage in Cambodia shortly after losing your little girl. That was something very difficult to do.
It was. It was a funny decision. Straight after Ella Jane died, we really wanted to get away. We wanted to do something, and I remember a lot of people giving us different, going, we'll maybe go to the Maldives and sit on a beach and just relax, because it had been a very traumatic time. And I remember Jim and I sort of thinking, God, the last thing we want to do is just sit on a beach, and think about the horribleness that has been. So we found a great holiday company called Hands Up Holidays. And it's basically, they take you to a part of the world that you always want to go to, but you do volunteer work when you're there. And you can do a little bit of sightseeing as well. And they were offering these orphanage holidays. And we just thought, you know what? I think the best way to do this is to get back on the horse and surround ourselves with children, as many children as possible, and remind ourselves that there is perspective in grief, and in tragedy, and we need to be part of that perspective. And being around children who had a terrible beginning, and reminded us that there's tragedy everywhere, and you've just got to grab it by the horns and get on with it, really. So it was a brilliant bit of recovery for us, those 2 months, I think, wasn't it? It was a good start to the journey.
Well, what you've done locally has been incredible. And you have another daughter, Nell, who's 11. Have you been homeschooling, or were you?
Yes.
Well, we did a little bit, didn't we? We're very naughty actually because we're both actors and we're away a lot. We have an au pair, so we'd love to say we were just hard at work, homeschooling, but she did quite a lot of it, didn't she?
Yeah, I can't believe you. Yeah,
I can't believe you.
We could have got a free.
We could have got away with that. Yeah. But no, she's been great, and also a lot of Nell's stuff was on Zoom. So really, you just put the computer on, and she just could do it herself.
Yeah.
So it was it was a pretty easy job for us.
Yeah.
We're all parents, but she must be so proud of both of you.
I think so. Do you think
It's very hard to get that kind of adulation from an 11-year-old.
Yeah, she's not that bothered. I mean, she doesn't care about our jobs at all. She's not that bothered about that. No. She does care about charity, though, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does.
Get into that.
We've got to be careful. The older she gets, I don't want her. It's very because the charity's such a big beast, for want of a better word, in our house and in our lives, and because it represents Ella Jane, who is a sister that Nell obviously never met. We just got to be slightly careful that she doesn't, being young, not being able to process it, that she doesn't almost become overwhelmed by a story and an idea that she feels removed from. Do you know what I mean?
But she broke her wrist in lockdown, and I ended up taking her to the CETD that we built. Yeah. So she was like, "Oh, did you?" She kind of saw it. She suddenly went, "So hang on a minute, mummy and daddy helped build this massive building." I went, "Yeah, that's what we do. That's our job." Oh, so she kind of managed to kind of go, "Oh right, I see what you do."
Yeah, I'm intrigued to know what
we did get VIP treatment because Sarah's wearing a mask.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah. So I just really saw, and it was amazing. Yeah.
I'm intrigued to know what Nell might do in the future, but we will talk about that later because we're running out of time and lots of people wanting to ask you questions. So Sarah, this is for you. Who did you base your character on in W1A? Was it an ex-producer?
I'm not allowed to say because I'll never work again. Well. Yeah.
James, you tell us.
No, because I want to be employed by her too.
Oh no, that's not. No, it's not.
Is it not?
It's 3 different people.
All right, I can't.
But they're all in the business and they're all very powerful. So I'm never going to say.
And this question,
but I love them all dearly.
And this question is from Tim Marshall, and he says, W1A was scarily realistic, at times more like a fly-on-the-wall doc than a drama. What sort of research did you do for the Anna Rampton role?
Again, I just remembered these 3 people that I based Anna on. And I thought about, there are many meetings that I'd gone to when I was a younger actor where there would always be an Anna Rampton in the room. And she would always terrify me because, those people that are just silent and they're fine with silences. And for me, if that's my nightmare, I just end up talking and talking and talking and talking. I'm doing it now. So I based it on that.
I get that totally. This one's for you, James. James, would you ever consider writing or directing Sarah in a role?
Yeah, I would. I'd love to. I don't know whether I can afford it, though. Yeah, I would. Of course I would. That would be a dream come true, I guess. Yeah.
It's mates rates, she's already told me. And Lisa Nichols asks, what's each of their favourite productions that you've worked on?
Favourite productions? Ooh. Cutting It was great fun because all my girlfriends, we've stayed in contact. And there was a really good friendship group in that. And you always remember those jobs where you meet people that you stay in touch with. So Cutting It was a really good fun production for me.
I think for me, it's one of 2, and both of them are quite a while ago now. One was a First World War drama called All the King's Men, which was fantastic because it was a true story about the Sandringham workers, the Queen's workers at Sandringham on the Sandringham estate that were sent over to the front line, and they were all tragically killed. And it's really gives you a real sense of purpose and responsibility to be in something like that. And also another job, which is a terrible movie I did years ago called Phoenix Blue, but my character happened to live on a 200-foot luxury yacht, and he was in
the Cayman Islands.
In the Cayman Islands, and he was a reclusive freediver. So I ended up living on the yacht and being taught how to freedive in the Caribbean. And I thought I'd arrived. I had arrived, but I then very quickly left again.
And we're fast running out of time. Emma Kirridge asks, how do you like to approach breaking down a script? And do you have any specific processes that help with your character development?
Yeah, I read the script over and over and over and over again, because you keep getting new bits all the time. Then I go through and see what everybody says about my character, what I say about my character. Then I action everything, so I put lines through everything, so I know what I'm thinking when it goes on for ages. It's quite long and laborious, but that's how I get there. What about you?
I tend to read the other characters and read their dialogue just as much as, if not more than mine, at least to begin with. It's very easy to fall into a trap just reading your own lines, but actually read the other characters' lines, and it sort of gets your imagination going and how your character might react to those lines, and it makes learning your lines and discovering a character and building a character, for me, much easier.
And last thing, we're coming out of lockdown, hopefully. What are you all both looking forward to?
Oh, what festivals! I think being in a lovely festival and having a dance with loads of people. I miss dancing.
I'm looking forward to working more, doing my next job.
Yeah.
I'm working on something to start a job next week, which will be so much easier because of coming out of lockdown. So just working more. It's a really boring answer. Sorry.
No, it's not boring. You have been brilliant guests. Thank you so much for your time today and giving the Royal Television Society all this attention, all these brilliant insights into your relationship. Every good wish from us, and thank you to everyone who's watching too. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much.
having us.
Thanks for having us.
Bye.
Bye-bye.